Hello everyone, welcome back to Rare of the Week. In today's episode we are going to be looking at the Is-7, also known as the Object 260. Now in today's video we are going to of course be looking at the stats of the vehicle, the customization options, as well as the battle tactics. But first off we're going to dive into the history behind this piece of Soviet armor. The Is-7 was the brainchild of Soviet tank designer Nikolai Fedorovich Shashmurin, who also had a hand in designing the Is-2 as well as drawing up the plans for the ill-fated KV-4 project. The development of the Is-7 started in December 1945 in factory number 100 in Leningrad, with a full-scale wooden mock-up being produced soon after and fully running prototypes being ready as soon as 1946. Testing ran through 1947 and ended in 1948 when the designers believed they had reached a finalized design. It was then finally given the designation of Is-7. The final design was armed with a stabilized 130mm cannon which was fed by an autoloader mechanism, a total of 8 machine guns, infrared scopes and armor up to 300mm thick. It was the largest tank that the USSR had or would ever produce. After the initial factory tests, the prototype tanks were handed over to the State Commission. The test drivers were famously fond of how the Is-7 handled, reporting that it would respond to the smallest adjustment with ease. Unfortunately, these tests were not without incident. During one of the trials, an Is-7 prototype caught fire, and despite both sets of the internal fire extinguishers firing, the fire continued to burn, which did eventually result in the abandonment and destruction of that prototype. The cause of the fire was thought to have originated in the weight-saving plastic-lined fuel tanks. These were later removed in later variants to prevent the same accident from occurring. Even though it was generally liked and thought to be a good vehicle, the governing bodies refused to accept it into mass production. Even until today, no reason has actually come up as to why it wasn't accepted. The only things I can think of is the complexity of the design or possibly the cost of producing such a large tank. The Is-7's successor, the Is-8, later known as the T-10, provided to be a far more flexible vehicle and was better able to meet the needs found on a now vastly evolving battlefield. Only one Is-7 survives till this day, built in 1948, and survives in the Kubinka Tank Museum near Moscow. So going into the stats for this tank, there are a few things to note. First off, the turret rotation of 11.9 degrees per second, which for a heavy tank isn't too bad. You then have the reload of 10 seconds, which of course you can speed up by leveling up your crew and upgrading their skill class to Ace or Expert, those sort of things. Speed of the tank is 60 kilometers per hour, which again for a heavy tank isn't actually too bad, it's a pretty speedy vehicle. The vertical guidance of the gun is -3 degrees plus 15, and you know, for a Soviet tank that's not too bad, you do have a fairly decent range there. And the shells this tank uses are APC, BC and HE shells, not a huge selection, but they can be used fairly effectively. In terms of customization, as with every other tank in the game, you have an option to add decorations to the vehicle or decals, and in terms of the camouflage options, you have a wide selection of desert, winter and summer camouflages, including the standard green camouflage and the rare summer camouflage from the Operation Summer event. Now to start off this battle tactics segment, the first thing I'd like to note is long-range engagements. I would say try to avoid long-range engagements, main reason being that the shells from this gun, they do lose an awful lot of their effectiveness over long range. So you're best staying at close range, and being at close range actually definitely is not a disadvantage, mainly due to the fact that you have almost over 450mm of armor effectiveness in a lot of places on your tank. So at close range, you probably stand a good chance of surviving and taking out a few enemy vehicles. Now, so there is no need to shy away from the enemy vehicles. This is definitely a breakthrough tank. You find the enemy lines, you find a base that they're capping, you just break through that point, you take them out. That's definitely what I would say you use this for, as well as the fact that the turret rotation isn't too bad, and the actual speed of the vehicle is not bad either. Although one thing to mention that could be a possible disadvantage is driving this tank, which is very large in relatively small urban areas, such as on the Maginot Line as you see here. There are a few places near cap points where you can actually get almost stuck if you try to turn on the sport or try and get out of a certain position, which can leave your tank in a rather exposed position where you could be picked off by enemy vehicles. And talking of being picked off by enemy vehicles, there are a few things you want to be careful of. First off, enemy tanks with ATGMs, high-pen heat rounds, HESH, or APFSDS are definitely going to be able to damage you. In some cases, APFSDS will be able to pen your frontal plate, and one tank really to look out for in up-tier games is the XM1, which is a lot faster than you, has very high pen rounds, and will definitely do some damage. So just something to look out for there. If you see an XM1, try and keep your strongest armor angled, facing them, and then try and get a shot through, most likely the turret. I would say enemy tanks, when you're engaging them, hit the turret, take out their gun so they cannot shoot you, and then you can pick off the rest of their crew. And, you know, reloading on this tank, it's got a 10-second reload. That's definitely not bad either, so you should be able to do that fairly effectively. Well, now we have finished the battle tactics segment. It is the end of the video, so I would like to remind you to go to the straw poll link in the description and vote for the vehicle for next week's video, as well as, if you enjoyed the video, maybe leaving a like or possibly even subscribing to my channel. If you do, that would be very much appreciated. Thanks again for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.